everybody, welcome to another episode of Cleaning and Cocktails. You guys know the drill. It's where I bring on industry subject matter experts, cleaning business owners, consultants, coaches, manufacturers, you name it, anybody and everybody that is helping and empowering the cleaning industry. I have a guest on today called Krystal Bella, named Krystal Bella. You guys may have seen her in some of our videos that we've just been pushing out from our Cleaning and Cocktails live event. We had the pleasure of having Krystal actually present and speak on the topic that we're going to be talking about, which today, you guys, I'm super excited. We're talking about hiring. We're talking about recruiting. It's pretty crazy. We're 40 episodes in, and we've really never touched on that area, and it's surprisingly to me, I should have touched on this earlier. We'll get into it. It's a pain point. Everybody knows. It's actually probably one of the top 2 pain points. So again, I got Krystal Bella. She's the owner of Recruiting Solutions. She's considered a hiring expert. She's out of San Jose, California. And her tagline, I want to get this one right, is helping business owners hire employees or contractors cheaper and easier than ever before. Again, Krystal, thank you for jumping on board. Side note, you guys know I always do a cheers and I have a drink. I got mine. Krystal can't. She's dehydrated. She's hydrating herself. I got a COVID interview, guys. She's got COVID right now. That's how much she cares about this industry. Is she's here speaking, even though this poor girl's got COVID right now. So Krystal, without further ado, tell us about the journey. How'd you get into this industry? And we'll just dig deep into the hiring and recruiting aspect. But how'd you pick cleaning?
I grew up around cleaning. So my mother I was like 6 years old doing cleaning for my mother and her cleaning business because she, had her own cleaning business every time we moved. I've moved over 40 times before I was 20. So I've moved a lot, and every single time we've moved, my mom has always started a new cleaning business. So it was like second nature. It was something that I saw growing up. I was always there to help out. I always saw all these amazing women. It was always women in the cleaning industry back then. And it's just something that I, learned from the ground up, and to start over instantly. Anytime you move to a new city, if you want to get quick income, it was like, I knew how to do it. And, it kind of grew from there.
Awesome. Well, and that's funny you say it's that you can move into a different city. I mean, that is what intrigues me and fascinates me about the cleaning industry is we know it's recession proof, but now we know it's pandemic proof. But at the same time, it's competitive, right? And the 2 things that I say are probably the biggest pain points in our industry is, one, sales, right? You can't do anything without sales. You can't even worry about operations and anything after if you don't drive in the sales. But in my opinion, number 2 is staffing. I'm dealing with today. We just had a meeting today about staffing and recruiting, and which, like I pinged you, we actually have to talk about more, me and you, on that. But staffing, your phone must be ringing off the hook, your emails, you must be getting buzzed, because I got to believe, especially in this day and age with the situation that's going on with labor. I mean, I don't even want to say how busy you are, but how productive are you right now with what is going on with people reaching out about this with the pain point of staffing?
Yeah, it's so common. You see it everywhere. I mean, if I was to walk down the road, just going to CVS, you see now hiring signs, people are struggling. It's like not even just the cleaning industry, it's every industry. That's what makes it even harder, because you're not just competing with trying to get workers for your cleaning business. Like, these workers now have so many more opportunities. It's like opportunity overwhelm. And then you introduce, opportunity overwhelm, and then also having to have, work-life balance. Like, schools are getting shut down. My daughter's school, she had just had a close contact. Her school got shut down out of nowhere. It's really hard. It's like a fine balance, because you have people who are mothers. They're and maybe the dad goes and works, or maybe the mom has to stay home. I honestly feel like we're in a time right now that somebody may have to stay home. So you may have to have more flexible standards with some of your workers, and instead of trying to be so hard. But it's kind of like finding that balance of that, but also being competitive with all the other businesses in your area. It's so many businesses are struggling with this. And I love it because, of course, I love automation. So we're able to help somebody get on board within a day. Like you can get on board and you can start getting workers in the door and you can start getting interviews on the calendar. So on our side, it's pretty streamlined, but for them, it's just a matter of, it's also opportunity overwhelm for the business owner. They have so many beliefs. It could be the unemployment, and they're like, I can't get workers. It's the unemployment, and then it's like another one. This platform sucks, or and they rely on Facebook, and so they start to get opportunity overwhelm, and it's just like a big, huge circle. We really try to break down and simplify.
Well, no, you know what? I think that's a great way to put it. Opportunity overload. And before we even get into the framework, because that's what I wanted to talk about, is, you just said a lot of buzzwords, right? Automation and streamlining, and these issues create opportunities for people such as yourself. But it also creates opportunities, I guess, for us as business owners in any industry to look at people differently too, right? Because I think that's something I actually want to touch on real quick is, instead of just, let's talk about us as the business owners and the employer, what are you seeing for the employees that we should be thinking about? Because you just said flexibility. These are times that are different now where we have to worry about, hey, if it's a husband and wife and we're hiring the wife, if the husband is busy traveling for work, the flexibility of schedule, and all of a sudden now the kids aren't being able to go to school, they don't have a babysitter. There's a lot of other variables that traditionally weren't there before, pre-pandemic. Or is that a stigma? Were these always there? We just never looked at them.
I believe it's always been there, but it's not been as frequent. Every single week, I'm literally getting emails about the school having a close contact. And every single time, for at least in our area, every time there's a close contact, all the students in that classroom have to go get a COVID test. And you have to produce a negative COVID test by the end of 5 days. If you don't, then you're going to have to stay home for 10 days. And that is happening every single week for at least the last month. So, I'm lucky.
So what does that employee do? Right? Like, now what do you have? It hurts. It does really affect
everybody.
More people. Yeah.
Right. And
that's a good point. That's a good point.
We really just have to consider that, I think taking that into consideration and maybe trying to be a little bit productive about it. Like, I think if you're able to offer, or have a worker, watch kids, that could help you. As
I was thinking about that. Yes.
Yes. Like,
not a daycare, but like something where you've been to the office here, right? Like, I swear, one of our suites, we're like, hey, what? Because again, you want to help and support, because at the end, if they can produce and perform their job and you're assisting, but then I guess there's additional factors that come into play. Can you watch kids at your office, or, where do you send them? But you're right. Like, it's crazy times, and it's just being open to think outside the box.
Yeah, for sure. It's either like creating something like that, maybe, working with or networking with some of the daycares in your area for drop-offs. Maybe you introduce a special rate. Maybe you do a certain amount of hours for daycare for each employee. Maybe everyone's a little bit different. Maybe you have them pay a percentage, but you pay a percentage. Maybe you bring it in-house, or in office to where you have somebody. Again, that helps you eliminate that huge problem because it's consistent. It's real. It's like if you solve that, then you could work on other aspects, like, making sure that they know their job. They're making sure that they're focused. They're making sure that, they have good pay and they could support their family.
Because eliminating. You don't want to say it's a distraction, but when it comes to their children, right? Your employees' children, it should be number one. Like,
they come first.
They should come first. So It's interesting we started off with this topic. Just I'm a big family business, and if you consider that, you're right. Like, if that comes first, the training and the time and attendance and things after the fact, it's a different dynamic. That's a different conversation to have. So that's a great start to this conversation. So all right. So I know, just so you, Krystal, so you're aware too, audience and like the people listening or watching, usually small business owners, there are some, medium-sized businesses that are watching as well, people outside of cleaning as well. But that's the kind of picture I wanted to give you. So as we're talking, that's who we're talking to as far as the audience and the listeners. Framework. I love the word. I'm big about framework, processes, systems, right? I know you are too. But like I saw on your website, and I see in a lot of your literature, you speak on the 7 layers of the candidate filtration built-in. Mm-hmm. Without going too deep on it, because again, you guys, you'll have all of Krystal's information at, the bottom of the YouTube clip, and then everywhere that we'll post this, you'll have her information. So if you want to dig deeper, go ahead and reach out to her, and we'll talk about the program she has. But the 7 layers, Krystal, can you walk us through what that entails, and is it a different message when you're talking to in our case, a residential cleaning business owner or a commercial cleaning business owner?
It is. I think the messaging is so important. And again, when it circles back to the opportunity overwhelm, a lot of business owners, they're like, nobody's attracted to my job post. Nobody, I can't get workers to follow through after the interview. And it all really circles back to what we created our framework on. So we're able to really create that structure so the business owner can, put out their message in a way that's not confusing to the candidate, because if the candidate gets confused or the candidate's not aligned with it, you're gonna lose that candidate. So it really starts from the beginning, but making sure that the business owner has it broken down in a simple way, and that's where we work it through with the framework.
Okay, so can we go through that? Because I know not too, again, just kind of the points of those 7 layers, where when you ask me about a job ad, me as I've been in that position that I was responsible for it. So when I think of a job ad, I just think of the pay rate, the hours, where it's located, maybe a couple bullet points of expectations. I gotta believe that's probably not the most the way that's going to convert the best candidates for me. So can we dissect that as far as just even call out those steps or those layers?
Yeah, so I like to think of like the job ad as a separate component. So we don't really consider that as part of the seven layers of candidate.
We'll put that to the side. We'll put that to the next one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, it really starts, so the framework is mission, values, FAQ. What is the mission for not only like your company, but it's how do you phrase it in a way that attracts your ideal worker? Because again, a lot of people think of the mission and they're like, oh yeah, we want to be the best cleaning company, or we want to serve all the businesses, and but it's not really, you didn't say anything about the worker. Like, what's your mission?
So it's like difference of mission for client is different than what you're talking about, mission for the employee you're about to bring onto the team.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to think of it as kind of like a mission and a hook. Right. So like, what's like the best way you can put that together to hook your worker? Because that's usually like the first thing that they see, whether it's on your hiring funnel or your web page or your job post. That's typically the first thing they see. So does that attract your ideal worker? Does that align with you and your company and your mission? And I think getting that right gets them to the next part, and then you kind of like, you're working your way down and inching them through the process. And forgive me if I'm like shaking. I got a part fever right now, but don't worry, we're knocking it out. Again, I got COVID. So
cheers
don't worry.
You.
I got a heater. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so just little, story behind that one. Then we got values. So like, what do you value as a company? It's really important to have, this align with them, because if they don't, it's easy to like filter out somebody just by not aligning. So we start with the mission. It's like the hook for your workers. Then what do you value? So do you value freedom? Do you value flexibility? These are things that, are important to the worker. And, again, it's attracting the right one, because you may have an older worker who they really enjoy, higher pay, all this other stuff as well, versus a younger worker. They're like, yeah, I just want to party, they may have like a different agenda. So again, you want to make sure everything is really focused on your ideal candidate.
So it's not a one size fits all, right? We gotta know that.
Yeah, it's like you want to know who your ideal candidate is. So like out of all the workers that you have, like who are your top performers? Who are the ones that they've been there with you for years? You know, what are things that they enjoy? Like what are their top favorite things that they value about your company, about working with you? Like those are things that you want to collect. You can do that in a survey, you can do that in a meeting, but using those as your baseline, because you already know that these workers love working with your company. They, you know, you've retained them the longest. That should be like your baseline for what your messaging is really targeting.
Okay. And then, so Krystal, I got to assume, so let's think about the, you know, mom and pop they're doing the cleaning themselves. This is about to be their first big hire, or the, you know, even 1 to 5 employees. I'm assuming the baseline is what they like about themselves then, right? Like what do they see about themselves that they want to hire, like a mini them? Or what about that? Because there's no history there, right? Like there is no data on the people that have done well for them already. What about those, you know, because a lot of the industry is that first big hire is around the corner. And they won't grow unless they make that first big hire.
Yeah, and that's a good topic right there as well. Anytime that, you know, you are just starting, it's your first workers, I feel like it's easy to kind of get this wrong. And it's so easy to say, they must have this, they must have this, they must have this. You really, really want to, again, at least phrase it. I mean, this is your first worker. This is the one who really needs to believe in you, in your process. That one's really going to come down to communication, relationship for that first hire. You really just want to make sure that, I would say, at least focus on who do you want to work with, you know, at that point.
Because that's a good point. I like that. You're working with those first hires side by side.
Yeah, and they're going to be the ones that take it off, and they're going to be your trainers, or they're going to be, you know, the one leading it. You know, you really want to connect with them and have that great relationship, have great values, make them feel like they're cared for, you know, they're respected, they got great pay, they love working with you. It's very structured. I think that is another downfall, especially when you're getting your first worker. It's like there's no structure. And so they see that.
Krystal, I feel like we're not even going to get past half these questions because there's so many things. There's things that I think about. Because as you're saying that, I was guilty of that. When me and my wife were first hiring, we had our must-haves, right? And it's like, then we were stuck doing all the work for so long. We're like, you know, I'm like, babe, what's going on here? Why can't we find our first handful we expected too much. Then we started to say, hey, you know what? No more experience. I'm not looking for 10 years of experience. I'm not looking for this. Are you a good person? Do you have a good personality? And are you energetic? That was our go-tos.
Yeah.
And it just started to really snowball because then those people became, like you said, our first inspector, our first manager. And it was the people skills. Not, everybody thinks you need experience. Again, it's good, but I would argue I would take people skills over experience. But yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that as well, too. When it comes to getting your first hire, they have this really high expectation of like 7 years of experience or 3+ years of experience versus really getting in there and training this person from scratch. And honestly, the person who has the most experience, they're a little less flexible with how you're going to do stuff. Maybe they're like, well, no, we usually do it this way, or this works better. Or, oh, I like to use this. And there may be a little bumping heads. I'm not saying that that's bad, but when it is your first hire, you really want to make sure that you're not, even if they are experienced or not, that you're giving them a full-blown training and not just like, oh, they came with skills. I don't need to train them.
Made that mistake.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you come with skills, you come with habits. And if you're not there to watch that in the beginning, again, it's the beginning, man. I feel like you could do a whole episode just on that first year of business or the first handful of hires, because that is what you will build your company on, is that first group of hires. So yeah, sorry, keep it going.
No, yeah. And so I'll go through the framework a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
So then we have the mission, which is like the hook, the values, which is like what attracts them. Then we have FAQ that really explains like, you know, what's the pay? Is it percentage? Do they need supplies? Do they drive their own car? That's an important one, driving their own car. You want to think of like, what are some things, questions, rebuttals, or common issues that you're either asked or objections or something that would hinder them getting on board. Again, if they're driving their own car and they don't want to put on the miles, you don't have a mileage program. Again, that's just all stuff to put into the FAQ. Really, you just guided them through. They're like, oh, wow, you know, I align with this company. You know, this is what I like. Oh, I love, you know, I don't have to use my car. Perfect. You know, and then you've gotten them down, and then you're able to go into like the deal breakers where you're able to say, this is where we really define for a company, like, what are your qualifications and what are your deal breakers? These things right here really need to be in writing, and sometimes people overdo it or they put extra stuff in there, and we like to really have it for deal breakers be like, this is incorrect or this is correct. So we could really filter them out versus open-ended answers. They're okay to have a few, but just with those, you know, like for instance, if you were to get a job at Wells Fargo, I used to work there a long time ago, and they had this rigorous like skill, personality, scenario test for like, what would you do this? Where would you do this? And it filtered you out. If you made it to the end, you got to the process. And it's kind of like that for the application. But a lot of people, again, they put the open-ended, they put stuff that doesn't really matter or it really doesn't make or break. Like you don't want to have stuff like, you know, do you wear socks? Like, I know it's really random. But for instance, like it's not going to filter them. It's not going to make or break. Like if the question doesn't make or break, you don't need it on your application.
So and like then, a good example, if your account is after 6 p.m. evening clean or overnight third shift, that's it. Like that is the account. If you can't work those hours, you're kicked out of the funnel, right? You're kicked out of the okay.
Yeah, so I would have in some options of like some other times that would kick them out and then some other times that are acceptable. So then you could, you know, they don't see it as like oh, I have to pick one of these. They could really be honest with themselves because they see more options. And then, you know, you could really say that, hey, this night shift doesn't really, you know, align with this worker. And then after the deal breakers, that really goes to where it's, you know, the process is automated and you're having, you know, that interview with them, whatever your process is. There's so many different ways to have interviews and how different companies do it. But the main thing is really looking for, you know, the confidence. How are they responding? How is their mannerism? Do they show up on time? And if they align with those, then, you know, you want to take your best ones, your top performers, those A+ players, then you want to go ahead and offer them the job. It's really important to offer them the position and they can have the opportunity to accept or decline. If you're like, perfect, here's the paperwork, sign it, like you're going to have a higher no-show rate on their first day. And so making sure that they're following through with it basically all kind of aligns back to our 7-layer framework.
So like thinking about, so the job offer, again, that's a good point. Just it's may seem like a you know, a point not to drive home, but we've noticed ourselves personally is when you create that 1-page or 2-page or whatever agreement job offer, even for a technician position, it's like a mutual agreement to say, this is your position, because you're right. Instead of just, hey, you start on Monday, right? And when you say like, here's the expectations, here's what you've been hired for, I'm offering you the position, you've signed the position, because I want to say, I don't think there's no offers when you work at like retail, right? Or you work at a lot of other type of jobs where it's, you know, it's an application and that's it. You know, there was an offer usually to me was a management role or a role that it's different. I don't know. I think it's important for cleaning technicians, and I'd like to call them technicians, is I am offering you this opportunity to work with this company.
Yeah, and that's something that you know, back in the day, I feel like at least a lot of people didn't do that. You usually see like franchise companies, bigger companies, they're the ones who typically do, you know, the job offers. But if the big companies are doing it and they're being successful, they're getting lots of workers, why wouldn't the smaller companies start to follow what's working?
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. And it's something to hold them to, right? Hold your, you know, because there's always that wishy-washy. Well, you told me, or it was in this text and an email, you assume. No, man, it's here. This is a kind of a binding agreement. You agreed to perform at this level for us. So I like that.
Yeah, but I think, to add to that real quick is that it's really important to not only the offer, but it's like it's giving them a way to back out without speaking with somebody that's non-confrontational. So for clients that we work with, we have them confirm their interview before their interview. If they don't confirm it, then their interview is canceled already. So we're already filtering out more people there. We already filtered them from the messaging, and then we, went to the application. We really already defined like what makes or break them, and then they have to confirm. Or, if they don't confirm, their interview is automatically canceled. So we're sticking with those people who are committing down your process. And then that job offer, again, those A players, you offer them the job, they get to really either say, yes, I want to work with you. And then again, that's commitment to themselves. They followed it through. It's really structured. And then there will be a handful of people that still drop off. And those one that drop off, that's when they're going to get a survey, and they're going to be able to, as soon as they click decline, they're going to be able to say, okay, so why did you decline? Was it the offer? The pay was too low. You didn't align with the interviewer. And again, you're all getting feedback to really improve your process. And it just, all goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So now let's talk about, you're talking to business owners a lot. It's a stressful industry already. It's a stressful environment. It's a stressful economy right now. How has I feel like you got to feel like a therapist sometimes talking to them, right? Because I know I've been told I probably should have a therapist as well, but it's tough for a business owner to ask for help. In the beginning stages too, because you don't know who to ask for help, right? You're thinking. Legal, I talk to an attorney, a car issue, I go talk to a mechanic, hiring. You may not even have a payroll company, right? Where a payroll company usually, as you're growing, they usually have this, HR generalist and things like that. But again, small mom and pop growing businesses, they normally don't have somebody to reach out to. So them reaching out to you, like, how do you talk to them in that when they're feeling, because you feel lonely in the beginning. So I got to believe you've grown to understand how to speak to these small business owners as of late.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to hiring, they're really timid. They don't like to talk about a lot of the struggles. There's like a difference of what you see online for Facebook, or, hey, I need help, or, hey, this worker didn't show up, we're struggling. And then there's a difference of when they come to me in their journey. It's like when they come to me, it's like, we get a whole, therapy session of, what's going on, and then it really, we try to circle it back to like, sticking with the hiring process, because again, they could go on, anybody can go on, especially with podcasts. I'm sure we've had those days where, you go off topic, but it happens. So it's just kind of like circling back to, what is the problem? Like, where's your drop off? And kind of circling back to, what works. And I love that we have so much data, that we have thousands of applicants literally going through the system every hour. So we're able to see what works. We're able to look at the top performing companies, and we're managing their ads. So we typically get to see hey, this company is getting the best results. They have the highest conversion, or this company has the highest retention. What are they doing? And we're able to look at that data, decode it, and we're able to make updates to everybody based on what's working, the trends, when stuff changes. So we're constantly, as the process or as hiring may evolve continuously, it's we constantly update it for everybody. We take the guesswork out of it, but we try to simplify it back to that framework, kind of figuring out what's their process, and kind of going into it from there. We do try to of course, anytime somebody goes on about off topic, again, we just try to circle it back.
All right, you know what, Krystal, this is good stuff. Good stuff. Here we go. All right, so I'm about to unpack some stuff because I did not even realize or think about digging deep here is the programs that you have. As you're talking, I feel like, and I'm sorry if I did not put two and two together here, but so do you have a platform then? Do you have a platform that you have these business owners where are you, because part of the struggle is, 9 times out of 10, I don't know how to hire. I'm a business owner. I've never been in HR. I don't know what a job posting looks like. I don't know what the cadence should be. So are these business owners looking to, are you taking that off the load then? Like, or am I saying, hey, Krystal, here's the jobs I need to look for in my area, and then you take that and run with it and kind of, I mean, should you have a platform to explain that process then? I'm sorry, I didn't even touch on that. Come on, Ray.
Yeah. Yeah. So we basically have, two different options. We always set up their first ad. We already give them all their automation, all their hiring automation. We give them the application with the logic that's already built in for that position. So for like commercial cleaning, we already know what the top commercial cleaning companies are asking, what's working and what's filtering out the best candidates. So we already have that logic pre-built into there. We already have those interview questions already ready for you. We already have the hiring funnels, your calendar, everything is just already basically done for you. We're literally giving you a 98% done system. So it could be a sales CRM, it could be a hiring CRM, but typically our main focus is hiring. So typically, from anything in their applicant's journey after, from getting them to the job post, we basically create the job post for you. We post it on the platform. We do the research to figure out like, hey, these are the areas you want to hit. What city is yielding the best results? Like nobody knows some of these tricks, but we save you thousands of dollars by just instantly knowing that off the top instead of you having to play and guess with it. But we also have an Indeed rep where we have them go into your account, take off all the bad settings and put good settings onto your account.
We got a lot of bad settings in Indeed.
And it's typical because that's what they give you by default. And they've definitely speeded up the process of trying to get some of these settings removed. But back in the day, I would say maybe not back in the day, but like a month ago, they just changed it to where any new customer coming in, like automatically get like these really bad settings. It's going to cost a lot of money.
You don't know because it's probably default, right? It's a default setting. You're thinking it's plug and play and you just start posting opportunities.
Yeah. So you're just posting your job and then it's like $15 per person to apply. And then now they have it to where you have like 24 hours to dispute that one if they're not qualified. Again, that's manual manual.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. We turned our Indeed off because it was, as well as it's a good tool to use to speed up things. At the same time, it's a job. Like you have to monitor it to make sure it's outputting the right things that you need. And yeah, again, it's, we have HR, so we're okay in the sense that somebody's monitoring and tracking that. But for those that don't, it's got to suck, right? I mean, so you're an extension of a business owner when it comes to hiring and recruiting. Because, not that it's a quick explanation, but hiring and recruiting, that's two different categories, right? Like, explain that a little bit for people to know too.
Yeah, so we don't see, well, kind of.
Or no, am I wrong?
So we see hiring as like employees. We see recruiting as like contractors because there's that verbiage, especially when we used to educate compliance working with contractors, working with attorneys. It's like the verbiage really mattered. So like if you hear us say that, it's like if we say recruiting, it's usually just like a safe side of we're probably talking about employees and contractors. So that's how we typically see it. We still see it as like the same umbrella, but we do everything to get the applicants to you and get them on your calendar. So basically every single month we would repost it, we'd monitor your ad stats. Again, it's automated. You're not going to Indeed. You're not checking anything. You don't have to dispute anything. It's like they click a button, they're already in our funnel. Like it's automated. Okay. There is no more having to go post a job, having to, I need to message this candidate. No, it's automated and it feels very personal for them, but it's automated. So so there's a lot to it, but we generate the applicants from the ads that pour into the funnel where they're automatically filtered out. On your calendar, you click a button, offer the job, and then, it goes through the process.
So Krystal, when it gets to, there's a lot of the meat and potatoes that you guys are handling, right? And so then it gets to, they're on our calendar. I then have to interview them, right? Mm-hmm. That falls on us to interview.
Correct.
As the business owner and the client. Mm-hmm. And then we click, job offer sent or whatever the case is. And then do you guys go beyond as also keep those candidates that weren't offered a position for us as well then? And like do we have an ongoing growing pool of candidates or does it end after that job's been closed out?
Yeah, so I mean, you always have them inside of your CRM, but I mean, it's very easy to go into your contacts, filter out anybody who, you know, was qualified, and you could easily retarget them, create a retargeting campaign to where you're dropping a voicemail, sending a text message, maybe resending the applicant link, whatever it is. You can create a trigger link. Did they click here? Did they not click here? Do this, do that. And I mean, you could really, you know, create and retarget them. We don't typically retarget people. We do try to create new people because, again, they filtered off for a reason. And we're not trying to pull from all the bad people in there.
No,
you know,
for sure.
So that is kind of, you know, how that goes. But, you know, just making sure they have that interview process in place. I've seen so many people, they're like, yeah, well, I interview at Togo's, and then, you know, maybe I'll do a phone interview first, and then we go to Togo's and we do it in person, and then maybe I'll do a test clean. And again, that's like another hurdle that business owners get really stuck at. You know,
I interviewed at Dunkin' Donuts my first couple of years. That was my go-to spot.
Yeah, you know, but the time has evolved, and it's like, that's so much more time consuming. You're wasting, you know, it's inefficient. And we just really want to streamline that process so you're getting more people in, you know, but also they want to see like a nice brand. They want to see, you know, like you're going to be able to provide the income that they want to, you know, sustain their family. If you're meeting at Togo's or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, like, that's not always their impression in their mind when they see that. You know, they may say, oh, well, this person doesn't have an office. Maybe I'm going to be working out of their garage or out of their home, or, oh, I did that before. It was a bad experience. And then, you know, especially if you interviewed them and then they sign the paperwork, you know, they're going to no-show you, you know, a higher chance of having a no-show. And it's really, you know, making sure that interview process, like we work with the companies and we just have that already built out. So, you know, if they were going to go, and this is where all the stats and data come in that we love to look at and I obsess over, and I love it, is being able to see, like, does it convert more to go straight to an in-person interview if you have an office? Does it? Well, statistically, no, it doesn't. You know, it converts better to have a phone call before and then go to the interview. You built that rapport, that relationship. You also pre-screened them, and then you invited them, which they got to schedule or not schedule if they weren't interested, and go into that in-person event. So we get to see all this. So just depending on like what the business owner is wanting for, you know, we get so many things of, I need to see them in person, or I need to see them.
I see how people would think that. So like you're indirectly already observing the actions of this potential candidate.
Yeah, then well, it's really automated. So, I mean, we're giving it to you, and it's already proven to work. It's already working for other companies. We're not giving you here's like a guess, or here we're customizing
You've done the
this.
observation.
It's
You've
already
done the observation to really automate that for us then. Okay.
Yeah. So like within 10 minutes, you can get off the call, go sign up, have a free trial, and you already have your account. Literally, you can start getting people on the calendar. We didn't really have to do much because it's already built. We already designed it, and we're continuously pushing out updates that, you know, are based on the data that we're reading for all the other companies that are working. Okay.
Now, Krystal, like, what about, I mean, I feel like you've already been talking a lot about ads, so we'll touch on ads, but real quick, a simple, because I feel like this is a great one-liner to understand, or a quick phrase of the cadence of hiring. Like, I always joke around and I'll post stuff about, always be selling. And then I'll say, well, you should always be hiring. But Is that true? Like, should we always be looking and hiring? Or does that affect the how do I want to say it? Like, what if there isn't an opportunity and then you got a great candidate that walked in? That's what I'm always afraid of offering opportunities when we don't have an opportunity. But then that goes against the always be hiring. Explain, like, what do you think is based on data, a good cadence to be looking for employees?
Yeah, and it's definitely a fine balance, again, with like your marketing and your HR to make sure that they are, getting that balance. And that's where we do try to help guide you as well, too. We always say for every new worker, you want to get them 15 hours on the schedule like ASAP. Like within 7 days, we want you to at least offer them the opportunities to be getting that, especially if you work with contractors or maybe they accept or decline jobs. You want to at least be sending out those offers so they have the ability, they're seeing that work come in. It's so often that you may like hire 3 people, and the next thing you know, you forgot about one, you only got 2 hours on the schedule for this one may have 2, and then again, it's inconsistent. They're not getting started off on that right foot. And we actually identified that, and we created a retention campaign. So now when you have a new worker, we're going to prompt your admin, every so often to double check this worker's schedule and make sure that they have a certain amount of hours on the schedule. So we realized that commitment and, encouragement and compliments go a long way. So we want to make sure that they have, that relationship. We want to make sure they have hours, and that they're feeling supported. So that's where we developed our retention campaign. So anytime you have a new one, so they don't know that you're sending it, so it really feels like it's personal. But you're like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you for all the great communication. We really value that. So that's
do you do that in Spanish, Krystal, too, or other languages, or is this just English, like the automated responses?
Yeah, so it's predominantly English. We do have a few Spanish things. So for instance, like one click, you could translate your whole funnel into Spanish, and that does the application and everything. But as far as like the messaging, it's something we could build. It's just not pre-built.
Well, I can help you with that. We got to talk. We got to
right?
talk.
We have
I like retention. I mean, when people are listening to this, think about that word retention, because I hear it a lot about it on the technology side, but it is just as important for us in the service industry, in the blue collar space, because that. I mean, I'm sure, Krystal, you could throw data and stats on this, but it is a lot harder to hire new versus keep and retain.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Very true. And, that retention campaign, it's designed to really help, again, save you time, money. Again, our whole tagline, with, faster and quicker and cheaper than ever before, with less stress. So, that's just definitely something that we love as well in the process.
Cool. Well, golden nuggets here, guys. Golden nuggets. So as we keep going, I mean, is there stuff go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot to kind of touch on that other part that you mentioned, that when you're always hiring. So.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah. Again, you really want to focus on having, 15 hours for every new worker. So you get a worker, focus on getting them 15 hours. Like you really don't want to hire another person until you got that worker 15 hours. Then you could focus on the next person, and then you can kind of continue on. But you really need to know your turnover rate. So that's something that if you're not tracking, you definitely want to start tracking it, because let's say,
6% over here.
6%. Okay. So is that 6% each month? Is that, over the year? Like, is that
over the year,
quarter? Okay.
Over the year.
So you'd want to like break it down like per month.
Okay,
it just
so
makes it to where it's,
okay. You're telling me I'm doing it wrong.
So if you lose like one worker every 2 months, you want to anticipate like you're losing 0.5 workers every single month. So you need to know how much does it cost you to hire one person? And then once you know that number, then you're going to know like your minimum hiring advertising budget. So if you let's say it costs $100 per worker that you're getting, and you're losing 0.1, every month, then you want to have at least $50 going towards your hiring ad budget every single month. So you're breaking even on your hiring. So like you can anticipate that you are going to lose one, but you covered it because you are always keeping that your baseline there. So if you're like, okay, well, hey, I'm losing a worker, I'm getting a worker, I'm not really growing. Well, it's because you got to hire above your turnover rate. So again, if your turnover rate is, 1 every 2 months, you have $100 per hire. And then so $50 each month, you want to advertise on top of that in order to get more workers. So you just got to make sure that you know your numbers. And that's something that we do teach you. We have like a form that you fill out. It literally does all of the data, spits out what your hiring ad budget needs to be and what you can improve on.
Now, Krystal, what about, because again, as you're talking, I'm thinking of other stuff. You touched on, well, actually, I got 2 things here. Is there a simple formula to understand how to figure out the cost of hiring an employee? As far as, I know there's the ad budget and all that stuff, but like, is there a simple, like, ABC equals X and that's how you get to a good estimate of what it costs for you to hire somebody?
Yeah. So, I mean, there is a formula. I don't know it off the top of my head. That's why I love, building it into like a spreadsheet, and then it does it for you. You don't have to think about it again. And that's totally doable for any spreadsheet. But basically, you want to say, okay, this many people applied. This many people were qualified. This many people, we offered the job to, and then this many people accepted the job. So, I mean, those are great numbers to really pay attention to. So we like to look at it as in like total applied versus how many you hired, right? So if you got one hire and you just had 200 people apply, oops.
That's all right.
If you, so 200 people applied, you hired one person, then every 200 people, that you have apply, you get one worker out of. And essentially you can kind of play with that. You're like, okay, so I need 400 people to apply if I need 2 workers. But then essentially too, if you know your cost per click, then let's say 76 cents per click, and you have 400 people apply, you could take 400 times 0.76, and then that's how much, it costs for you to hire 2 workers, or so on and so forth.
Now, do you, just to follow up on that too, do you consider the amount of time HR or you as the business owner have to take into account too? Like, my HR person spent 3 hours creating the post, but again, you'll probably be helping reduce that, right? But is time spent, or is that just for us as business owners, that's just general operating costs?
Yeah, so basically we remove all operating costs. All you have to do is really focus on the interviews and then making that decision after, getting them to sign your paperwork. But we have all the automation for that. But basically, I mean, there's no more posting the job. There's no more checking on your stats. There's no more really following up with people unless it's desired, or unless you want to use some other strategies as well too and combined. But basically, it's essentially you're only doing the interviews, but it's already saving you so much time in general, because they have to confirm before. Otherwise, if they don't confirm, their interview is going to get canceled, and that saves you a lot of time because you're already reducing the no-shows as well automatically on your calendar. So you could really just throw a hiring budget out there. We always recommend having anywhere from $100 to $300 advertising budget per city as your starting point. Once you know the data and you know more of your numbers, and if you're in competitive, not in competitive, then you can modify your budget. But that's always a good starting point. Like if you're like, hey, I need to hire my first worker, what advertising budget should I start with? Well, you shouldn't start with the crappy settings on Indeed first. You definitely need to have the good settings on Indeed, because otherwise, when I'm talking about, cost difference, it's like $15 per versus 76 cents per. So huge difference right there. Then you can have that $100 advertising budget, which you or us can manage, either or. And then it's just automatically putting applicants onto your calendar for you.
So, okay. So, Chris, I'm trying to think of, again, I'm thinking of us as a company personally too, so in essence, you're filling that void of the in-between. I guess I want to get to is, we know, hey, we just want an account. We need 3 more employees. We've got 3 weeks to start the account. Is the communication through email, or again on the platform to say, hey, Krystal and team, these are the hours, this is what we're looking for, and then the magic happens in the in-between, and then we get to, okay, awesome, 3 days later, we have 7 applicants to interview. Is that really where it starts and stops, or starts, you take over, and then we pick back up again? To try to give people not a visual, but an understanding of how the process works?
Yeah. So basically you would, say, I want to hire for this role. You would answer a few questions like, what's the position name, requirements, the duties, what's the location? And then you would click another button saying, start ad. And then we're going to go ahead and get the notification on our side, and we're going to automatically have your ad created, do that research on those cities. We're going to ask you to give us 6 cities. And then we're going to go ahead and look at all the different results, like which one's going to yield the best results. Then we're going to go ahead and post your ad. And then you have another button. If you ever want to pause your ad, turn on a new ad or whatnot, you could literally just click the modify ad button, and it will go ahead and notify our team. But we also have chat support. You could text us, and you can call us, or you could book a support Zoom call as well.
Love it. Love it. I'm a techie. So like, this is just, this is where, again, people technology it doesn't solve all your problems, right? But it helps improve certain situations, which I think this is a situation that as business owners, you don't need to take on such a big load of trying to be an HR department, right? Or just areas that as a business owner, you shouldn't have to do, right? So like, you're talking about automation, funnels, conversion rate, right? Right away think of, it's like a technology company. That in a sense, that's what you're doing for us, right? Is you're an extension for us using tech. But what would you say to the people that say, I don't understand tech. I don't use it as much. This may be too much for me. What would be your answer for those people?
Yeah. So we always, our best fit would be somebody who does have a higher turnover industry. So, like cleaning companies, commercial cleaning, versus maybe a brick and mortar. Maybe they don't have as high of a turnover rate, but I would say that's who we're best for. But when it comes to the tech, I mean, it's 99% done for you. It's just, you're really telling us what the position is, and then we're doing all that other stuff on our side.
And that's what I wanted to kind of confirm. So people know that. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say too, is, for everybody listening and watching too, is she just said it, right? It's we already go through the process of knowing what we're looking for. It's just, let's deliver it to somebody like yourself. And again, it's not like you're not reinventing the wheel of a lot of things, but it's good to know that you have experience with cleaning industry. You know the space, so some of these key words or trigger words or things that we're looking for. Because that's the problem with some of the bigger technology platforms that are out there that call them, their applicant tracking, and they help you do this and that. This cleaning technicians are not general labor, so there's a big difference there. So I appreciate what you're doing for us and how you're helping. And I know a lot of people were excited when you were here. It was an awesome session. Just so people know too, she had, again, the session that we talked on, and it was cool because my mom said this. I don't know if you remember meeting my mom, Krystal, but she's like, this girl gave us homework. We're doing exercises here. Rick, I thought this was just a speaker session. But I think that's something that you draw out of people, right? You give people because then do you see these exercises, they turn into commitment from us as business owners, right?
Yeah. And I think it's really good to start with that training that we had, where I sit there and I literally walk you through the whole homework, and I do it with you, because even if you have a great job ad, you already know all your other stuff and you're really confident about it. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier is we already have all the job offer emails, all the emails, texts, we already have 300 of them already pre-written and done for you that are already persuasive and converting. So I wanted to throw that. I
should stop trying to come up with those on my own.
Yeah, we literally, it's done for you. So you don't have to do that. And that's something that we do here. We're I don't know how to explain explain what comes next, especially with contractors. They don't know how to explain the verbiage or that working relationship. And that's where we really nail it with having that experience, educating compliance.
And I want to do, and just because we're coming to an end too there, Krystal, but I think the fact that you said that you ended with that contractor, that, so everybody knows, I am going to do another session with you on that, because, for those that know me, I'm big on subcontracting. I call it affiliate partners, right? Where I got to believe there's a different message. There's a different way to speak to the contractor as a prime versus sub. We'll touch base on that. I feel like that's just a solid other session to have, because that is how you grow and scale in this business, is not only by hiring employees and doing it that way, but subcontracting, both being the sub and being the prime. People got to know that it is going to be the future of how you as a small business owner grow. So I'm excited to have you talk to me about that at another session. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a great topic to dive into. There's so much that you got to be careful for. I'd be happy to come back and do that. For that,
go ahead.
That training that we did, I want you to think of, definitely check it out as well. I'm going to give it to you so you could share that if anybody wants that. But that is a really good starting point. So if you have all these other things, but you're not competitive with your pay. Like you're not paying, or you don't have great benefits, and you're like, I don't know how to come up with my pay rate, or I don't know how to, what else is around me? How do I get competitive? I think that's a really great starting point, because then again, that will help you identify, like, if you do have workers, like, what are your top performers? Like, I'm going to show you how to find your best performers and actually, figure out what they like and why they joined you. And again, that's going to really help you with your messaging, make sure that you stick out before we dive into paying ads, because you don't want to have ads going, especially if you don't know, or your wage is too low. I mean, God bless your heart, but you need to up your wage, get paid what you're worth, because nobody's going to want to work with you if you're paying too low. You definitely got to like acknowledge that and do that research, and that's just a great training for you.
So like, if you guys caught that too, if you hear what you said, as far as you're going to help us save future wasted money, right? Because it's a lot of money it's an expense to do these ads, to try to stick out. But I know from personally experiences, when you put the wrong verbiage, you put the wrong pay rate, you screw it up, it costs you all that money. It was out there in the world. Nobody jumped on it. There was a reason. You did something wrong. So if you guys heard what she said, that's part of the process, part of the exercises that she helps in the beginning is to avoid, dishing out that kind of money. So as we come to an end here, I remember, Krystal, I promised you 1 hour. So 1 hour, that was the test. I want to end with the 3-day challenge. Can you explain to everybody, again, we'll have this link, but Krystal, what is a 3-day challenge for business owners, cleaning business owners, just general business owners, to take advantage of this 3-day business challenge that you have?
Yeah, so this 3-day hiring challenge is literally just going to, take off some of those Indeed settings for you. It's going to put on the right settings. Like, we're going to show you how to do it. If you want us to do it for you, we can, but we're showing you how to do this. So this is a DIY plan where you're literally going to start with, figuring out what the wage is, and then you're going to dive into like what are the typical problems that you're seeing, and then we're going to go into another framework which we call the F diet, which really breaks down like where you need to have certain things. So if you're having certain issues with stuff, you can say, okay, well, I have a lot of people no showing on the first job. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to identify, here's a problem and where you need to put it. And that's where we introduce that F diet framework on day 2. And then day 3, we're actually creating your job ad, you're posting it. So that's literally a total free DIY plan that you can go ahead and take, implement, and have changes like instantly into your account. You're just going to have to make sure that, your Indeed rep optimizes your account for you based on what we're recommending. And then if you wanted to take it a step further, you can go and sign up for a free trial. We'll go ahead and manage your ads for free for 2 weeks. And then you can go ahead and see how all the hiring automation, everything is streamlined, and how it just took no branding or little branding or confused branding to a process that really works.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Krystal, for taking the time out with COVID.
I know. I'm like, I think I just finally warmed up.
All right. But again, I appreciate you. Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for coming out to Chicago when you did. We got a lot more coming in here in 2022. Everybody, like I said, you'll have Krystal's information down below in the YouTube link, how to contact her, the program, the website, all that good stuff. Krystal, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anything else you want to leave or end with on your end?
You could do it. Hiring is, everybody's struggling with it. It's definitely something that you can learn. There's definitely ways that you can improve, do it, and have support in that process without wasting and trying to figure it out all on your own for yourself. Definitely reach out. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Krystal, again. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time.
Hi, guys.